Okay, Tracy, let's get this show on.
That's it. Up and that's all.
No.
What? I don't know. Welcome and thank you for attending this evening's meeting of the Westerville City Schools Board of Education. As you see, the agenda is on the screen in front of you for you to follow along. There will be two opportunities tonight to address the board this evening. The first being agenda item 6.1. The first set of public comments is relative to agenda items 8.01 through 12.01. Please state the agenda item you are referencing at the beginning of your comments. The second opportunity is 13.01. This public comment section is for items not on this evening's agenda. There are sign-up sheets in the back, and you will have 5 minutes. And with that, Mr. Griffith, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Byrd?
Here.
Dr. French?
Here.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Here.
Mr. Velardo?
Here.
Mrs. Davidson?
Here. Will you please join us in the pledge? Okay, up first tonight, in which why most of you are here, district highlights and recognitions. Mr. Velardo, would you like to start us off?
I will start us off. I am going to go to the podium in just a moment to do some presentations, some recognitions, and again, we're just very honored that all of you could be here tonight. So, if you can hold on a minute, I will head right over there. We have several presentations tonight. The first presentation are what we call our A+ awards, recognizing those in our educational community that have gone above and beyond. And this is really representative of some just tremendous and exciting work that's going on within our district. So I will just be calling up the nominator, the presenter, and the award winner, and then they will share some as well. So first, I would like to ask Linda Weiler to come up with Scott Delegati, please. Right here.
Okay.
And then afterwards, you'll go and shake hands.
Okay. Mr. Delegati, so well deserving of this A+ award. Those of you that know him know just how awesome he is. Those of you that don't are about to find out a little bit about his awesomeness. As a lot of you know, there's a lot of buzz and chatter going on at back-to-school days in August. Kids comparing schedules to see what teachers they got, kids hoping to get a certain teacher that one of their siblings had, kids slumping their shoulders when they get the hard teacher. When our first kid entered Genoa, I remember going to schedule pickup and watching all the kids comparing their schedules and hearing, "Yes, I got Mr. Delegati. Sweet, look who I got for science. Awesome, I got my favorite teacher again." It wasn't until a few years later that it was my kids saying, "Yes, I got Mr. Delegati." Both kids, 2 separate years, came home excited about science and actually talked about what they had learned. I perked up and thought to myself, okay, so this is what happens when you have Mr. Delegati as a teacher. Kids get excited about learning. To be honest, I have actually learned a lot of science myself through their excitement. Not only does he have a knack for communicating with kids, he sends weekly updates to parents about what is going on in class, how the kids did on their test, suggestions of conversation starters that you can start at home. One day this year, in one of the weekly updates, he explained that as he was looking to see how the kids were doing on their online assignments, he noticed that they weren't doing so well. So what did he do? He uploaded a video of himself reteaching the lesson so that the kids who weren't getting it could get a better understanding. When I asked several kids what made Mr. Delegati such a special teacher, their top 5 answers were unanimous. He's funny, he wants you to learn, he's like a kid himself, he's fair, and he cares. It's what we all want for our kids. My kids have been beyond blessed to have him for their teacher. Congratulations, Mr. Delegati. Thank you for loving what you do and for sparking our kids' interest in science and in learning.
I do want to highlight also, I'm sorry I neglected to do this, just very honored to have Representative Gonzalez here. She will be making a presentation, a couple of presentations in just a few moments. Very honored to have our own mayor here as well, Mayor Fosselman, who is about to shake his, there she is. So just in case you didn't know, Mayor Fosselman, glad to have her here as well, and honored to have Lisa Acoin here, as well as the Parent Council President. So that's the folks that are standing up front. At this time, I'd like Amy Miller to come and present to Sandy Bundenson.
It is my honor to present Sandy Bundenson, one of our first grade teachers from McVeigh Elementary this evening. She is one of our most promising educators for the future of our children. Her passion for learning with her children, creative lesson design, and strong collaboration skills ensures quality education experiences for everyone she meets, including me. As a professional, she values family involvement, participates in every community event hosted at McVeigh, which means she has to eat at almost every restaurant in this town. So that's a good thing. Not a complaint, that's a good thing. And supports her colleagues in a team spirit to bring unique experiences to all of our first grade students. Ms. Bundenson team teaches, mentors new teachers, and supports staff in new initiatives. Personally, Ms. Bundenson brings a fun and inclusive spirit to our staff. She never leaves anyone out, and she makes sure that all means all. She works to keep morale high and just makes coming to work fun. Ms. Bundenson is the type of teacher that a principal can learn from and work side by side with to grow professionally and in a supportive and safe environment. She's someone, when I walk in her room, her children are so happy that I just don't have to worry. You know, happy children, happy families, and the joy that she brings them and that they experience just being with her is amazing. If I had a daughter, I would hope that she would present herself as Ms. Bundenson does at McVeigh. I know that her mother and her family members must be extremely proud of the individual they have as a daughter. So thank you.
Awesome. At this time, Jennifer Molyneux will present Jill Fogel.
I'm here to present Jill Fogel, an intervention specialist at Whittier Elementary School. And Jill is a special education teacher in the autism unit at Whittier. Her students are among those with the most intensive needs in our district. According to the Center for Disease Control, 1 in 68 children have been identified with autism. And Jill's working on the front lines of this crisis. She helps the students, the typical peers, the parents, and the educators cope with this crisis. Jill's students have significant levels of social, emotional, language, motor, sensory, and behavioral delays. Jill studies her students, interprets their behaviors, anticipates their needs, and adapts the environment so they receive a just right challenge from the moment they come in until they leave at the end of the day. Jill's behavior is consistent with all of the district's values. It's beyond the scope of this nomination to mention all of her outstanding areas, but one of Jill's exceptional qualities is her ability to respect and nurture her students. All of her students have emotional outbursts when they become upset, but Jill's manner is calm, clear, and respectful, no matter how much support her students need. Jill's an exceptional teacher, and it's my pleasure to present her to the board as a Westerville A+ award recipient.
Awesome. At this time, I'd like to invite Marilee Mueller and Angela Pittman to come forward to present to Jody Dixon and April Thomas.
It was absolutely necessary to nominate these two because they go way above and way beyond for our Emerson family. We only have 2 minutes tonight, so we won't be able to share all they do, but suffice to say, they are the heart of our school. These ladies wear numerous hats throughout the day. They are event coordinators, party planners, disciplinarians, nurses, duty aides, media specialists, and much more. This year, Emerson shares a principal with our sister school, Hanby, so there are 2.5 days a week that they step up to run the show. Although this is undoubtedly a challenge new to them this year, they never, ever give us anything less than their all. Our kids, as well as our parents and staff, know that they can come to them at any time with any question or any concern. They hold us together as a family and seem to love every minute of it. They come to each and every after-school event that we have in order to support and cheer our students on. They gave of their personal time and participated in our live teacher auction as part of our International Night celebration. They sat through our 2.5-hour talent show. They assisted with our drama club and even walked over to Whittier after school with our performers and remained backstage helping throughout the entire performance. They are phenomenal in assisting our PTA and all event chairheads in staying organized and assuring that we get the word out to our families regarding all dates and activities. We would not be the warm, welcoming, successful, well-run building that we are without these two.
It's my privilege to invite Becca Yanni to come forward to present to Amy Van Sickle.
It's all good. Don't even mess with it. It's all good. Yeah, thanks. Just waiting.
Don't cry.
The job of a guidance counselor is to form relationships with students, help guide their path, to help their stakeholders communicate. And Amy Van Sickle does all of these things and so much more. Amy has been instrumental in starting the Girls on Track program at Walnut Springs. She has volunteered her time to help coach teams and be a game worker at students' events. She was a driving member of our College and Career Readiness Committee that plans family events at Walnut Springs. She is constantly communicating with our families, sending emails and reminders so that we can all be our best self. It is very rare that you walk past Amy's office and she isn't engaged with a student or a teacher, knowing that her door is always open to them. Amy does all of these wonderful things to make Walnut Springs a better place, and she does them with a calm and kindness that we all hope our students emulate one day. For all these things, large and small, I have nominated her and am so pleased that she is receiving the A+ award.
There's something very special about honoring people for going above and beyond, and I know that this is taking us some time, but I think you all can agree that when people give that second and third effort, it's just really an honor to just embrace them for just a few moments and acknowledge what they do and continue to do so well. At this time, I would like to invite Sarah Carl forward to present to John Sands.
Mr. Sands is a phenomenal teacher. He teaches material in an extremely logical manner in order to help kids understand it to the best of their ability, which makes for long-lasting comprehension. He always goes above and beyond in order to assist students learn, be comfortable in the classroom environment, and to enjoy school and take advantage of opportunities. He cares about individual students more than any teacher I have ever known. He is always available for any kind of help and redefines the term above and beyond. Mr. Sands helps kids sharpen a range of skills outside of just history, including writing, benevolence, and work ethics. No teacher I've ever had has shaped my identity in a more positive way than Mr. Sands has. I am currently a junior at Westerville North, and even when I have a stressful time at school and home, Mr. Sands helps me get back on track by helping with English and history. He also gave me skills to lower my stress levels for school and in my personal life. He has taught me to be a better person overall, and I know that I am not the only person he has facilitated in this way. Thank you, Mr. Sands. You have earned an A+.
Thank you, Sarah. At this time, I'd like to invite Nancy Conkle forward to present to Susan Pinnell.
Susan Pinnell and I both work in the Westerville South High School Cafe. I nominated Susan for the A+ award for several reasons. She makes the time to have conversations with students even during our busy lunch lines. Susan runs our deli, and I've seen students stop by to say hello to her even if they've ordered a different lunch. I've also witnessed students who come back after graduating high school to see her. Susan is a compassionate coworker, and I'm glad that we're on the same team. Please help me congratulate Susan Pinnell on this award.
And finally, for the A+ awards, I would like to invite forward Kathy Bechtel to present to Sandy Jones.
Sandy Jones is the clerk at Huber Ridge Elementary, and it is my pleasure to present her with the A+ award. There are many reasons why Sandy was nominated for this award, and I would like to share a few of these with you tonight. Sandy creates beautiful monthly displays in our school showcase. These showcases are rich with literature, historical photographs, character education elements, and her own artistic personal touches. At Huber Ridge, our students often lack the life experiences or exposure to information that other students in our district receive at home. Her showcases display often or offer additional opportunities for our students to learn information. She creates these displays every month on her own and uses her own personal time to create and design these displays. Not only does she take the time to create these showcases, she adds posters or photographs to enrich teachers' displays in the hallways. She also supports our Westerville Library Link by delivering books to students as they arrive here at Huber. Her willingness to go above and beyond normal expectations supports our staff in many ways. She takes great pride in our school and has beautified our building over the years. For example, she has been known to come in over the weekend and paint a staff bathroom just to make it look cheerful and pleasant. She's added framed photographs to the walls and has even added nice-smelling soaps or lotions near the sinks. She puts tablecloths in the staff lounge or even adds flowers to brighten up our spaces. If there's a dish soap or an extra coffee filter available, most likely Sandy has thought to put it there. These personal touches help all of us at Huber to feel valued and appreciated. In addition to making Huber a more beautiful place to work, she treats the staff to treat Thursdays. Home-baked goodies are provided on Thursdays, and her goodies have been known to lift the spirits on many occasions. As with the school showcase, she provides all of these goodies with her own time away from school and with her own money. Her behavior is consistent with our district values of inclusiveness, community, and nurturing. Sandy Jones goes above and beyond to support the Huber Ridge staff so we, in turn, can provide a nurturing environment for our students. Her selflessness and kindness make Huber Ridge a great place to work. Please join me in congratulating Sandy Jones.
So the board will be convening our next meeting at Huber on Thursdays, is what I think I'm hearing. I'd like to talk to her later about that bathroom at my house needing paint. And so what you just heard was a lot of affirmation of people going not only beyond the job description, but making our learning environments stronger and healthier and more meaningful. So before I go on, I would love it if you all would give one very rousing applause to all of these A+ award winners. It is, I think, one of the things that makes this district this strong and allows us to just have the honor of being a part of leading the district. So thanks to you all. The next award that we would like to present, I'd like to ask Vicki Saunders and Kurt Yancey to come forward with Coach Susan Tonez. Am I pronouncing that right? Good. She's not here, but I'm pronouncing it right anyway. Yeah, well, thank you. And for Mason Miller to come forward as well. Absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, it's an honor one more time to be here. And I have to apologize, I'm a little disheveled because we were working on our scoreboard, but it's no problem. It's a beautiful day out. So it's much nicer to be outside. I would also like to congratulate the A+ winners. That's an incredible recognition. And also to our Westerville South Wildcats for their incredible run in the tournament. That was exciting. And I'd also like to introduce you one more time to Mason Miller. Mason Miller is our second 3-time state champion. And that is only because Mason didn't come to us until his sophomore year, although I'd be confident he'd be our only 4-year champion. Mason is described by opposing coaches as having flawless technique. He is the 100-meter butterfly champion. If you're familiar with swimming at all, it's a very difficult stroke, and he has perfected that stroke. That comes with long hours of practice, and swimming is different than other sports because you are alone with your thoughts in the water. And that is many, many hours that he has perfected that. He's also, obviously, if you have that kind of self-discipline, an example in the classroom. And he has the opportunity next year to go on to the next level and not only get a quality education at the next level, but he gets to perform in the water too. So that is what we are most proud of. I present to you Mr. Mason Miller.
I will read a commendation, and then after I do that, I would like to invite Representative Gonzalez to come forward. She will be making a presentation right after this resolution, and then you get to go up and give the high fives. All right? Here's the commendation. Mason Miller, a senior at Westerville North High School, began swimming at the age of 6 for the Pacifica Sea Lions in Pacifica, California, where he holds multiple team records. And whereas he also swam and holds numerous team records for Napa Valley Swim Team in Napa, California, San Ramon Valley Livermore Aquatics in San Ramon, California, and the Ohio State Swim Club in Columbus, Ohio. And whereas as a high school athlete, Miller has excelled, setting a 200 medley relay school record at San Ramon Valley High School. And whereas after moving to Ohio from California, that's not in here, I'm just emphasizing that. Whereas after moving to Ohio, his remarkable athletic career continued, becoming the 50-yard freestyle state champion in 2013, where he also placed second in the 100-yard freestyle state contest. And whereas in 2014, he became state champion once again, but this time in the 100-yard butterfly, also taking third in the 100 freestyle. And whereas on February 28, 2015, in the Brannan Natatorium in Canton, Ohio, Mason Miller captured his third state title, standing atop the podium once again, this time defending his 100-yard butterfly title. Therefore, let it be resolved that Westerville City Schools Board of Education and Superintendent thank Mason Miller for bringing his talents to Westerville North High School, for creating a remarkable legacy in the Westerville City School District, and for representing our schools and community with honor and distinction. That's important. Be it further resolved that we wish him continued success, both academically and athletically, as he attends the State University of New York at Buffalo and competes in the Mid-American Conference as a Buffalo Bull. Congratulations, man. Stay here. I'd like to invite forward Representative Gonzalez at this time.
Yep, right here. How are you? Good. How are you? So California, Ohio, New York. Yeah. You just keep going east. Where do you think you'll end up then?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. There you go. Well, congratulations to you. On behalf of Representative Margaret Ann Rule and myself, we have accommodation here from signed by the Speaker, Speaker Rosenberger. And I'm sure your parents, are they here? Mm-hmm. Someone here? Your dad is? Is that the way in the back? You know, that's your daughter, your, not daughter, sorry. Like my daughter, right, age. Your sister, she was just, cheering for you back there just a little bit ago. So Dad must be very proud. Congratulations to you for raising such a fine young man. Your perseverance, your hard work, your good sportsmanship, your just abilities and what you've done to achieve these goals, I'm sure it's just going to take you on and on through life. And I can tell you're going to be very successful. So congratulations to you, and I wish you continued success. There you go.
Take that one. I was thinking about 3 state titles, and I realized to myself, I've never even attended 3 state events. So I've not even been to 3 state events before. Congratulations one more time, Mason. And for our final recognition, we're very excited tonight I'd like to have Buck Weaver, Steve Anderson come forward to present to Coach Ed Kalo and the South Boys Wildcat basketball team.
First of all, thank you to our board and to Mr. Griffith and Dr. Kellogg for inviting us tonight to recognize our tremendous accomplishment. It has been quite the ride. I think I can speak for the whole South community when it's been very humbling through the entire season and the postseason, getting to the state championship game was just amazing. Secondly, a big congratulations to our A-plus winners, as well as Mason, on your achievements. Congratulations. To kind of take you through our postseason and where we got towards the end of the season, district championships, regional championship, then we won the state semifinal game in kind of a crazy game. Second half went very fast. The end of the game came very quickly, and we were on top, made it to the state championship game, in which there was a sea of red in the Schottenstein Center. We were very well presented from the South community. We even had several Westerville Central and Westerville North kids that came and bought tickets and said they would very gladly wear red to the game and support our kids. So to introduce first our coaches and then our players, Coach Kalo, if you want to come on up here. First player, Adam Bowes, come on up. Chris Cook. DJ Dingus. John Edwards. Jordan Humphrey. Miguel Pedroso. Jelani Rogers. Antoine Smith. Ennis Thomas. Andre Wesson. And Caleb Wesson. We also have two members of our team that could not be here tonight, Dalen Haney and Anthony Mills.
I have a commendation, gentlemen, that I'd like to read as well. And then in a moment, Representative Ann Gonzalez will come forward as also. Resolution and commendation for the Westerville South High School basketball team. Whereas the Westerville South High School varsity basketball team, coached by Ed Kalo, defeated the Celtics on February 13 to earn its 10th OCC title, finishing first in the OCC Cardinal Division with a remarkable record of 13-1. And whereas top-seeded South opened the postseason by defeating 44th seeded Franklin Heights 76-37 on February 28, and then beat 43rd seeded Westland 101-39 on March 4th, and 19th seeded Canal Winchester 79-51 on March 11. And whereas the Wildcats won their 4th district championship, conquering 8th seeded Delaware 87-51 in the title game on March 14 at Ohio Dominican. And whereas playing in its first regional tournament since 2011, South overcame Newark 73-64 in a semifinal March 18th, and Northland 70-63 in a final March 21 at the Fairgrounds Coliseum. And whereas in an unnerving Division I state I'm just reading how they wrote it here. In an unnerving Division I state semifinal, March 27 against Garfield Heights, Westerville South rallied from a 10-point deficit in the second half for a thrilling 60-57 victory in front of nearly 10,000 spectators at Value City Arena. And whereas, despite a heartbreaking 65-57 loss to Huber Heights Wayne in Division I boys state title game on March 28 at The Ohio State University, The team played admirably before its adoring Red Army, making the entire Westerville South High School community proud. Therefore, be it resolved that the Westerville City Schools Board of Education and Superintendent commend the 2014-15 Westerville South High School boys basketball team, along with Coach Ed Kalo and his assistants, for an exhilarating and historic season of play, and thank them for representing our district and community with pride and distinction. And before you applaud, I met with them and talked with a couple of them before we came in here, and I thanked them for representing us so well on and off the court. And I know we wish it were one more game. I know you do, but I want you to know that what you will remember from this season is the community and the relationships and the friendships that you have built. And so we are very excited to honor you with this commendation. One other thing which will highlight the affirmation that I just shared with you, we also received a recognition from the Westerville Area Resource Ministry. Let me read a part of that because it is directed to the boys varsity basketball team. The Westerville Area Resource Ministry would like to thank the Westerville South basketball team for the generous check we received in the amount of $500 to support the operations of WARM. We are both honored and humbled by your recognition of work and addressing the effects of poverty in our community. The impact of your contribution is both immediate and powerful. Listen, it will supply the essential nutritional needs for 29 families, 160 people, representing over 2,000 meals. Thank you for your commitment to stand strong with us as we lead the charge against poverty and hunger in Westerville. Your recognition and generous support as hand-in-hand partners to help our neighbors is an inspiration to us. Once again, on behalf of everyone associated with the Westerville Area Resource Ministry, we thank everyone involved in the Westerville South basketball team for its philanthropic generosity. We truly appreciate support, encouragement, as we continue to work on the well-being of others in our community. Godspeed to the team. I wanted you to know that athletics is a part of this, but who you are as gentlemen is just as important a part of this. At this time, I'd like to invite Representative Gonzalez to come forward.
Excuse me 1 second. Rick?
Yes.
We have a couple more coaches out here. We would love for them to come up and join us.
This is Coach Wozlick, Coach Mike Wozlick, and Coach Trevor Kielmeyer. We also have some other assistants that couldn't be here tonight, Coach Brad Burris, Coach Jermaine Geis, and Coach Tim Brewer. They all could not be here tonight.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, congratulations to all of you. I also have a commendation signed by the speaker from the state of Ohio. And I just want to go ahead and give these to you, Coach Kalo, because you got individual certificates for each one of them. Yeah. If I could only afford to frame them, I would have done that for you. But, you know, I won't even begin to crack a joke about that. But anyway, so congratulations to you all. Just remarkable. I have to tell you, my son, do you guys know Richard? Is he a good kid? Is he? No? Probably going to talk to him about that when I get home. You know, has just followed you, and my family has followed you, obviously because we have children that go to South. Richard's a senior at South. So, you know, I was getting play-by-play every time, you know, you guys won a game. You'd come home, we talk about it, and just very, very proud of you. I know how hard you worked and the dedication and the stamina to achieve this goal, and you had a 27-win record, and that is just absolutely amazing. Congratulations. Your hard work and talent, your motivation has definitely paid off, and again, it will take you through your lives, and you'll be very successful. I'm almost sure of it. So, coaches, congratulations to you as well. Been following you for years and years and years, so quite an accomplishment for you as well. And so on behalf of the state of Ohio, congratulations to you.
All right, guys, go on and give some high fives, some hand shaking. Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. So this will take a minute, so let me just talk to you for just a second here. In just a minute, we will have all of the award winners leave. I think there's going to be some pictures out there, and if there's any cake left over, you can have that as well. As soon as the basketball team is through, we'll just do one more rousing applause for the award winners, for Mason, and for the basketball team.
You guys messed it up.
So one more time, I would really like to thank Representative Gonzalez for being here. Let's thank her for being here as well. For our very own Mayor Fosselman, thank you for attending as well. For Lisa Acoin, the president of Parent Council. And most of all, how about just one more huge applause for all the award winners and just all of this good stuff that's going on.
There's a couple, yeah, that we're missing. Thanks, Steve.
I'm sorry, I was not paying attention. Did Rick tell you that pictures outside?
I did, but
you Okay. Okay. And if you guys want to come back after, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I thought it was. That's the first time I've felt it, yeah. Normally it doesn't bother me, but yeah. It was hot in there. Yeah, me too. I was wondering if anybody else was.
I'm actually glad you were.
Normally I don't either.
I don't either. Okay, smile and wipe off sweat.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness. All right. A drink. I'm standing up there thinking I could drink a gallon, but I don't.
So that gentleman right there with the gray hair and the purple tie, that's our new principal at Alcott.
Oh.
As John said,
Is that the one who has a superintendent certificate? Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, Alcott. Interesting. Elementary.
Yeah.
I wonder why they chose him. Maybe to.
Isn't it interesting?
Where'd he come from? Do you know?
I don't remember. Where'd he come from?
I don't think it's
I don't
said
think
in
it
there,
says, does it?
Uh-uh.
Years ago, we used to put where they came from, which I like.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on with this evening's agenda, 4.01, discuss and approve minutes from the March 23rd meeting. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Nope? Okay. 5.01, social and emotional update. I know Tammy Santa is going to join us, but Dr. Kellogg, would you like to say anything before?
I would, if you wouldn't mind. Give me a quick moment. You know, it's there was a nice reminder in the awards tonight about the importance of this element of education. That whole piece about that basketball team's contribution to warm, what that means to the community and to the families they touched. I mean, 10,000 fans watching you win a basketball game is one thing, but providing food and support for that many families and individuals through your efforts is just as important. And so it's just a reminder about, as a school organization, as a community, we're bigger than some of the outcomes we get measured on. And as we prepare for this presentation tonight from Ms. Santa, I remind us that when we went through strategic planning with the community, this was an area that got a lot of attention. And then when we did some reorganization with the organizational chart and we created this leadership role, this was an important piece for us on the leadership team. And we have benefited greatly. Tammy has worked with us in the district for a while. And when she and I had conversation about moving her into this larger role, she was a little nervous about it. And in typical fashion, I gave her an ill-defined idea about what I wanted. Because really what I wanted was someone who I knew this area well to bring leadership. And I think you'll see tonight that quietly but effectively this year, she's done a lot of good work that I think has put us one step out to where we want to be moving forward. So with that, I turn it over to Tammy for her presentation.
Thanks, Dr. Kellogg. Thanks, everyone, for having me here. What I plan to do is take you through some bits and pieces of the social emotional pieces we're working on as a district this year. And I thought I would start by just going over what my roles are as it relates to social emotional learning. So as you can see on this slide, I assist with the facilitation of the K through 12 school counselors and the school social workers. Combined, that's approximately 40 people. So I don't know how much detail you know about our counselors or the social workers or the breakdown of those folks, but we have 32 school counselors and about 9 mental health workers or school social workers. And we can talk in more detail about where those people line up if needed. But that's a nice piece for me is to have the same set of eyes across that whole group of people and to be able to bring, especially as we look forward to our future, look at curriculum, look at specific programming, to really, my goal is to bring some consistency as we look across K through 12 programming. Additionally, I provide some professional development for all staff as it relates to social emotional learning. I assist with PBIS implementation across our district, build and establishing relationships within our community, that specifically for programming and then linking our families to resources. And then overall, just looking closely at an inventory, exploring what programs we already have, where we can go, and what can be linked to the social emotional pieces for our students and for our district. I would say a critical piece to my role stemmed directly from this, the strategic planning process, Dimension 6. And so as you can see, this is a quick summary of those results, 3 big key themes that the planning process was able to give back to the community through that planning process. As I look at these themes, you'll see that I also highlighted 3 big ones in red. You know, so when you look at things, positive relationships, you know, tonight, as you looked at these award winners, I didn't hear a lot about how they approached their specific, whatever if it was teaching, if it was getting food ready in the cafeteria. I heard relationships, how they provide those caring environments. And so that's a critical piece for me. The other ones would be extracurricular activities and social skills, and then providing resources to families. So this was able to give me very specific ideas as I move through the school year, where the vision of the district came from on the strategic planning process, and then where we can go as a district as it relates to social emotional learning. And then to break that down even further, I'm not sure how familiar you are with this new term, and I think it's the same term we've been talking about for a long time. It's just now social emotional learning is kind of the new catch-all for the moment. And I think it's pretty simple. When I look at it as how do we really give our students the skills to make them successful at school and after school. And if that hits on those big areas, emotion management, goal setting, empathy, relationships, decision making, those key areas. And then again, you'll see on that second bullet, relationships again. And again, I think we do that collectively as a district, but how do we become more intentional about creating those relationships in our classrooms, in our buildings, and outside of our duties as well? So these are the things that I used to direct my approach as I worked with these groups of counselors and social workers, mental health people, staff members, et cetera, as I looked at programming and what we can do to really take a closer look at the social emotional piece for our district. I'm going to break this down into an elementary piece and then a secondary piece. And what Juliet Peoples is the administrator that I support for the elementary counselors. What we did is we have 8 full-time school counselors at the elementary level, 14 buildings. We asked all of them to give us a lot of data this year. This is a snapshot you'll see on the next couple slides of that data, but we asked them to give us large group classroom delivery that you'll see on that top left slide, some small groups that some of them are offering, the individual student planning and responsive services, that's that bottom right graph, staff and family consults, those that have been linked to resources, and then some other duties that they may spend their time doing. So that is not all on there, and I also didn't put up all 14 buildings for you, but just so you have a snapshot of the data we've been collecting all year, and maybe some of the trends or some of the patterns we're seeing or not seeing. And that was the point of the data for Juliet and I, is I didn't even know what we knew in front of us. So in order to start anywhere, we had to figure out what we were already offering or doing in our buildings. So this first set of graphs, this is from a smaller building. You'll see approximately 250 enrolled in this building. Large group classroom delivery. So the first 2 lessons, met most of those students in that building. Then you start seeing some fluctuation. And usually we see that, you're going to see that consistency in these other 2 slides. Teachers start saying, hey, I know you're going to come in and do an empathy lesson. We're really seeing problems with tattling. Can you come in and do that lesson instead? You were going to do this. We're really seeing a building-driven need with this. Could you come in and talk more about this issue? And then the counselor would meet that need. They do not have a current curriculum in front of them. So there is not something that they are handed or ever have been handed to say, this is what we're going to do in our classrooms. And that struck me as, does every second grader get the same pieces? And if they don't, why not? And how do we close that? The bottom right graph, you're going to see, this is the individual student scene for this school counselor. And I wanted to see a couple things. If there were patterns there, are we looking at bigger needs as a district? Or is it by building? Do those vary? And then how many students are they seeing? These don't repeat students, so if a counselor sees the same kid every day, every week, we don't continue to count those numbers. This is just 77 individual faces. If you see them every day, you see them once. But it helps us put them into those categories. So you'll see those categories that I chose as kind of the bigger indicators. We can also drill down on that data if we need to. You'll see peer issues jump up a little bit. What does that mean? So we also can pull that out and look more specifically at, is this peer conflicts that are happening to what detail? Recess, bus, structured time, unstructured time, or are there really more skills, relationship building skills that we need to work on there? So those are those 2 pieces that you're going to see. This counselor is there 1 day a week at this building. And that is the variation. Our counselors, so we have 8 of them, some of them are in a building 1 day a week, some of them are in a building 5 days a week. So that does vary by building. This example would be a counselor who is in this building 4 days per week. So again, you're going to see those first 3 lessons. He or she is hitting a pretty decent population of those. This building has about 500 students in there. And then you'll start to see that variation happen again. And what we're hearing is, we were going to go in and do this lesson, and then we had some other requests pop up. How do we accommodate that request in addition to what we already prepared to meet the needs of the teachers or whatever it is? And so that was just a nice piece to see, whether or not we agree or disagree with what's being delivered. We have that data in front of us. Again, same thing you're going to see on this bottom right slide with the individual presenting issues. More or less students, maybe, maybe not, but again, what are these issues? Are there some issues really popping out to us? You'll see the peer issues up again. But, I think it's really helpful information for us to have. And again, here's a 5 day a week building. So this counselor's in there every day. First 2 lessons went pretty well, delivering to all of our students, and then we start to see the requests come in. Instead of this, we'd like to see this. Instead of this, our second graders are struggling with this, our fifth graders are with this. How do we try and meet all those building needs? And then again, pop down to the presenting issues. So we have 14 of these Google Sheets that we're constantly looking at and collecting, and we'll have a lot more substance to it by the end of the year. This is up through probably the end of February for accuracy. We're starting to see themes, we're starting to see similarities, we're starting to see differences, and that's what I needed to see to be able to even start planning. Our counselors are saying they would love something in front of them to say, here's the 8 lessons you're going to deliver. In addition to that, if your building has needs that those aren't meeting, let's start filling those in addition. So we can say every third grader is getting this, 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 and this. And additionally, then if you have a building need that's something else, then we'll fill that as well. But how do we get a little bit more consistency there? We need a curriculum that makes sense and that's doable. And that doesn't just speak to counselors, that's how do we integrate something within our classrooms as well that isn't too much. So when we look at past practice of maybe second step, that's a wonderful curriculum, but it is a lot to try and ask teachers and counselors to implement effectively. So is there something else out there? And that's what we're starting to look at. Here's a timeline that we see. This year, as I've mentioned, we're collecting a lot of data, really taking a close look at it, building by building. Next fall, we hope to start rolling out some surveys and getting together some focus groups for what our community, what our staff members, what our students expect. And then really start exploring what those curriculums could be. What really could we deliver that's going to hit those big competency areas of social emotional learning? What are we going to be able to do to show, ultimately, improve student outcomes? And then with the hope that we establish something at the end of next year and are able to roll it out effectively that 16-17 school year. This does say elementary timeline. That does mean that, we are working and we will work with Jennifer Knapp's office to do a K through 12. This is just very specific to the data, and I think this will drive the secondary piece that we'll talk a little bit more about. How can we then thread the curriculum we choose into that secondary piece in the most effective way? So that's a quick summary of the elementary world, and I'm happy to go into more detail about that data. I know I could have put a lot more up there, but also didn't want to overwhelm folks. So at the secondary level, in addition to the PBIS work that I'm spending a lot of time doing, we're seeing a lot of good work there. I'm working more specifically with our high schools, rolling that out, really trying to look at expectations from a building, culture, climate, and that's been really successful. You'll see 2 other big highlights that we're working on at the secondary level. And I work on the secondary piece with Ann Baldwin and also Cynthia DeVise on many of these programs. The mentoring programs, we see a big gap maybe at the middle school level. Again, you hear about these relationships for these award winners. You hear about the relationships on the basketball team, the swimmers. Keeping those kids connected, especially those at-risk kids at that middle school level, we need positive adult contact. So what other ways can we expose these students that maybe don't have positive adults sitting at their home, or at least access to those adults on a regular basis? Some kind of mentoring, and mentoring can be examined in many different ways, but here's some of the programs that are already happening or that we have secured some funding and a grant sense for next school year to start looking at intentional ways that we go about forming and improving and increasing those adult relationships at the secondary level. And the other big piece is career and college exploration and advising. This piece is huge, and I think, as we figure out a curriculum that pulls into the secondary world, our huge focus at secondary becomes attaching students to what their aspirations are. And we do that, but how can we do it more intentionally? What tools can we use to do this? I believe you would be familiar with the career advising policy that has to go into place next school year. And again, that's the very intentional, there's 8 components to it, but what can we do that is going to say, here's what we do, here's what every student gets starting in 6th grade to get them started, to get them thinking, what are their strengths? Let's start highlighting them now versus 9th, 10th, 11th. We got to hurry up and figure out what you're going to do, and off you go. We have so many things coming that are fantastic with the pathways and the options. So how do we then intentionally and again consistently make that make sense across our secondary world. So moving into professional development, another big piece that I wasn't sure how this would work with my new role. So I started gathering some data as phone calls rolled in, as emails rolled in, as I try and be present in buildings on a daily basis. So as I have those conversations and try and build those relationships, this is a breakdown of how that looks. That top left graph will show you by elementary, middle, and high school where those consults are coming from. And then very specifically broken down on that, the remaining 3 graphs by elementary, middle, and high, but the presenting issue. And I chose to break those down once I started to see some themes coming out into CPS, which would be children's services, linking, hard cases, lethality, IEP, and 504s. And when I look at hard case, we drill down a little bit further on that. So at the end of the year, if I start seeing themes jump out, then that will give me some direction on where to go on the professional development end. Lethality, that to me means homicidal, suicidal, or really major mental health with some psychosis in there and trying to determine assessment. So that's how those break down. It is helpful because I would have had some good guesses, but without having this in front of me, I maybe wouldn't have driven my PD in the best way. So this has been very helpful for us to take it almost every month to our meeting. So on a monthly basis, we're meeting with the counselors, the school counselors and the social workers. And then there's other professional development opportunities that we have throughout the year. So you'll see that that piece, in addition to some other things, drove how I structured those meetings. Being on this side of those meetings, I know I would always want to leave a meeting with direct application to my job the next day. Well, frighteningly, then I was in this position to then provide that for those that I was talking to, which was a nice challenge. But that's what I really worked hard on is what can we bring into these meetings that they can directly apply the next day and be better and make our students better and make our district better. And so we brought in every meeting, we brought somebody in, we brought an agency person in or a private provider in to physically be there to talk about their services. You know, teaching a lot on building relationships with students. We say it, we do it, we might know how to, but how are we doing it? You know, so when we're in schools and I see students coming in and out of school counselor offices, then I can give some feedback. We're all overwhelmed, we all have a lot going on, but are we intentionally building those relationships? And then we'll talk in more detail about the outside resources that we've spent a lot of time putting together this school year. Waiver Day, I think that was a success for our groups that we were able to reach. We did a lot of highlights on those 3 items, but again, you know, going back to building capacity within this group and being very intentional about what we were going to professionally develop within those staff members. So really excited for the professional development. Can't get enough people to now that they all want to come into the monthly meetings, engaging the counselors that want to come there, who's coming next. So it's been from my frame of reference, very positive. And then resources. This is a big passion of mine. I think it's essential and an opportunity that we have that we often miss the boat on. We're on the front lines. Our every day, you know, our students and families are in pretty critical situations. It's very easy for us to say, here's a list of 5 or 6 places, you know, good luck. If you've ever been on the other side of that, it's not the best service. So we've really tried to go above and beyond with our groups, and we will continue to build this capacity. But we have to eliminate as many barriers as we can. So one example would be, you know, net care. I don't wish that upon anybody having to go down there and have their family member assessed. But if you're going to send a child or a family there, you might want to prep them for what they're going to see. If you've never been to a mental health emergency room, you don't just say, here's net care's address. So that can be more traumatic than the event that they're even going through. So in addition to bringing net care to us this year, we also have a visit scheduled in May to take our counselors to net care. Again, if we can be as hands-on as possible to prep our families for something like that, we are seeing a lot of net care visits. You know, that's the bottom line. So whether we like that or not, it's our job to prep those families for that. So that would be one example. And then the other ones would just be insurance. If anyone's ever tried to access any services and your insurance company hands you a list a mile long, when you're in crisis, it's not very effective. So these, you know, are just snapshots. We have a very extensive list of these services, but we broke it down by resource, the contact, the address, if it's on a bus line, that's another critical piece. The specialty, I'm learning now that I'm in the elementary world, a lot of our elementary kiddos are hard to serve because a lot of counselors don't want to see kids under 12. So really drilling down on that was important for me this year. And then the insurance column that you'll see. One thing about this list, there's no one on this list that I wouldn't send my own family member to, and I think that's what's important, is that it's easy for us to say, go here or go there, but that's what I ask my counselors all the time. Would you send your own family member there? If you wouldn't, they better get off our list. And so these people I have good relationships with. They would call me to say, hey, I'm at max, give me a hold for a month, or whatever it is. So that way, in addition to just having this information and knowing the insurance piece is gone, so now you have just removed almost every barrier it is, but picking up the phone and making that final call for an appointment. And also knowing Children's is great. A lot of people use Children's, but you also need to know that they're on a 3.5-month wait list right now. So saying Children's is the best link might be the greatest service, but can we wait? But those are the things that we're really working hard on this resource end to make sure that we're getting our families linked to the right pieces. And so this is something that I think we've improved greatly on this year. We will continue to build this and to improve it so that it's one less barrier for the resource piece to our families. And like I said, this is just, I think, 2 or 3 pages out of a pretty lengthy list that gets very specific for our folks. And that is all I got for you. Questions, comments?
Who would like to start?
I got a whole list.
All right.
Most of it are just like little exclamation points with hallelujahs written beside them, so I won't bore you
I'll
with
accept
that.
those.
Yeah, okay. I'll send that to you. But I do want to start off with a couple comments. One is I want to give kudos, John, to you for your willingness and desire to create this position. I don't know if other people know, but this is extraordinarily rare. It doesn't happen. And what's so amazing to me about that is, given the difficulties that so many of our children are in, not just here, everywhere, that children in our society are in, and the difficulties that families that are facing, why are we not seeing more of this in other districts? So kudos to you for bringing that forward. I tend to believe that socio-emotional gaps are every bit as important as academic achievement gaps. And I'm very, very glad to see the way you're addressing this, Tammy, very methodically and at the same time very compassionately. So I thank you both for the work that's going on there. I also give you a lot of kudos for the list. The problem that I hear about many times in my work is the difficulty of families knowing where to turn and being able to make it past that 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6-month wait that so often happens, which is utterly unacceptable when children are in crisis or families are in crisis. The way you've organized that is much more than I have seen in many other districts, which is, well, here's the resource, let's give them a call and they'll help you when they can. I appreciate the time that it takes to do that. So thank you for that. It's extraordinarily important. I am curious to know, going back to that data, and I know you could have given us bunches and bunches more, and I understand this is highly preliminary and that you are still gathering the data, still analyzing the data. But as you look across the data that we have across our buildings, elementary, middle, high, what tend to be the more overarching trends that you see as regards the needs of our children?
Well, and I would say there's a couple things. So on the presenting issue end, we're seeing it varies. It fluctuates quite a bit. So I have, for example, I think 2 buildings that show they've seen over 35 kids of new students each. That's a high number. Now, I don't see that at most of the others, but again, that speaks to a building need and what we can do to serve that. I think overall, we're seeing this lumped into like a peer issue as a primary thing that, again, lends itself to, when we drill down, some unstructured time and when that's happening and why that's happening. But again, then going back to, are these frequent flyers? Are these the same students we're seeing? And what are we missing there on teaching them the skills they need to resolve conflict? And then the other piece is going to be family dynamics. So again, that lends itself to a lot to drill down on, but, and we can use that. That could be from, domestic violence to single parenting to just a lot of chaos. We've tried to separate some of those pieces, but those would be the two bigger themes that we're seeing with kind of peer issues, behavior, and the family piece. I think it's hard to weigh when I look at the graphs and I see a spike on peer and maybe just a little bar on CPS. That little bar on CPS might outweigh some of my other things. So that's also what I'm trying to be cognizant of. And we'll look at that a lot more, intently when we see it all in front of us. Because just because it has a little bar doesn't mean it might not outweigh some of my taller ones based on the significance and maybe the more severe of issues that we're seeing along those lines. So we are seeing some similarities, which is interesting, that we can then loop into a curriculum to see if then that decreases. Because again, if we don't have a consistent prevention model that we're trying to deliver on a regular basis, will that impact those individual case numbers? I don't know, possibly, but at least we'll have that going into it to say, here are some big pieces that we're missing. And the other piece is if you don't have an evidence-based, research-appreciated curriculum to tell your teachers you're coming into their rooms and they've got their own set of expectations, they may not have that door open to say, come on in, as maybe possible that would be better if you had something to say, this is great, it's proven, it's going to make your life better, they're going to learn math better, let us in. And I understand both sides of that. So I have been talking, very specifically to administrators, to teachers, to, all pieces of this to figure out where we can improve. But those would be some of the general themes that we're seeing. Does that answer?
And this is one of the most important pieces of work that we have begun. Thank you.
First, I'd like to commend you. I really appreciate the fact that your focus is evidence-based. I'm very happy that we're not chasing anecdotes or intuition, because a lot of times, obviously, that doesn't get us where we need to go. So putting a focus on tangible numbers, what they're telling us, totally appreciate and understand kind of next level of analysis around prioritization, severity levels, and absolutely understand, given the business that I'm in security, that sometimes the most important item is not the one that represents the largest volume, right? One incident can be too much. But I think that what I also find interesting in the last almost year now, a lot of questions that I get around the issues of social emotional learning tend to focus on a lot of feedback from the community about, well, I don't understand why the school district is in this business or in that business, or why do we feel the need to extend services ranging from, I don't know, Wi-Fi connectivity to underserved populations and school social behavior training, all these types of things. And what I find really interesting about it is if we think about really the collapse of public health policy as it relates to particularly social, emotional, and behavioral issues, the multi-month, which I've experienced with members of my own family, waits for services, the condition of insurance programs and supporting long-term treatment for people that need it. We think about that collapse, and I think about it in terms of our primary mission, which is the students. What always comes to mind in those conversations that I have with people is that there's one thing that I know for sure. If we have a kid that goes home at night to a family where there is abuse, whether it's physical or sexual or emotional, they're going to bed hungry, there's continuous stress and pressure around bills and finances and any number of other things, I can guarantee that they're going to have, at least on a probability basis, a much worse educational experience when they come to school. So if we have a better chance of creating a better educational outcome for that student, I'm not sure why I wouldn't be in that business, right? So I'm really glad that we're doing it, as we've done so many things, Dr. Kellogg and the district, the last couple of years in a planful way, understanding that there's immediate crisis and need right now, but in order to put something out there that has legs and is sustainable, we need to do it in a way that is backed with evidence and that is supported with a structured program. So I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. And you know, that reminds me of Suzanne Kyle is the administrator I support for social workers, and she gave a great example for our community who sometimes don't get it. They don't get, you can tell them there's trauma at home. You can tell them that there's all these difficult circumstances, and it's like, well, too bad. And so she gave a really beautiful example of, has anyone been to a haunted house? And all of a sudden all the hands go up. Well, imagine sitting in a haunted house and doing your homework, sitting in a haunted house and studying for that exam. And it finally brought some people back to, I can't really put myself in, you know, in an empathy position for the abuse and the neglect and what might be going on, but all of a sudden trying to pair that with something that we can get, you know, as simple as a haunted house. You know, we've got too many kids that are living in a haunted house every day, and that was a very simple way to explain to a lot of community members that that's a simple trauma world that they live in, and that's their reality. So I appreciate that feedback.
And just let me tag onto that to both of you. I can appreciate the difficulty you have with knowing when to involve the parents and when not to involve the parents, because I think there are times, obviously, you need to involve the parents. They need to be a part of that somehow to know what's going on. And then there are times that, you know, maybe it's not a good idea. So it's very difficult to be able to weigh that with situations and families, and that is a touchy area. So I appreciate what you're trying to do there, because there are times when parents shouldn't be, maybe, occasionally. But in general, we don't want to leave the parents out. They need to be involved, especially as you're getting into the curriculum, and they need to know what's being taught and so on. But that's a tough one.
You're absolutely right, and we have a lot of that professional development. When you see those hard cases and troubleshooting those hard cases, it's often really just walking people, administrators, counselors, staff members through those hard phone calls or those hard conversations. And it's not fun or easy, but I think it's the right way to go. And I would say 99% of the time we do, you know, involve those parents from the get-go. There is that anomaly sometimes that for safety reasons we may not, but you're right, it's difficult.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just real briefly, I have been looking forward to this presentation, and it's primarily, just truth be told, it primarily comes out of my vocation. I am trained as a counselor. I do a lot of counseling short-term, and then I do a lot of referrals. And I'm just always humbled realizing when people open up a very vulnerable part of their life to you. And I know that in school, sometimes for kids, that's a dicey thing for them to let you in that close. I'm very moved by the fact that we are trying to enter into human beings' lives, the children and the staff, to enter into their lives and say, your academics matter, your athletics matter, but your social, emotional well-being at the core of who you are, the soul of who you are, if I can use that term, is really important. And yes, it'll impact all of the other stuff, but even if it didn't, it still matters to care for people at a deep level. And so what you are trying to do, and then the whole presentation of really trying to do this with, as Richard was saying, with some data and trying to get some trends, and then trying to figure out the curriculum that would be most beneficial, and doing it from my perspective, only me, on a not as many person power people could be helpful. So you didn't disappoint me in a direction that you all are trying to take this, and I look forward to hearing from you. I hope just as this continues to unroll, to unroll and to make a difference. I think you started it well. I think you're on the right path. And what you're doing matters critically. So, thank you. Thank you.
Just one real quick question. When you collect the data for elementary,
Yes.
Where do you get that? How do you get that data?
We get it directly from the school counselors, so they collect it on a spreadsheet for us. It's a Google sheet. It's just a lot easier to
It's
enter.
not part of the Common Core testing or anything?
Correct, not at all. And then what they do is they send it almost every month, a month and a half, to me and to Juliet. And then additionally, I do follow-up with those administrators, and not to say, but when you're asking for just a human being to hand you data, you can write anything down on a piece of paper. So we, check and balance that with, is this what you're seeing, these people going into your classrooms and attempting to do? Does this look, accurate? Because there's always going to be some room for error, but that is the pretty simple way that we're just gathering it directly from our counselors and then confirming that through their principals.
I want to wrap it up. I know you were going to say something, but I want to circle back. We talked about people who say, why do we do this, and so forth. But I think it's really important to underscore the fact that great swaths of community members said this is important. I don't want there to be an impression that we're swimming against the tide here. This is what large portions of the community said we needed to do. They're right, but I just wanted to make sure that we didn't let that go.
Yeah, and it was nice. I was thankfully just part of that strategic planning Dimension 6 process without knowing this would be, where I'm sitting. So to look back and reflect on that and be part of that process, I think that's huge to have that connection.
Okay, I have a couple things that popped out. 32 counselors, correct?
Correct.
9 social workers.
Yep.
And we have not quite 15,000 kids in our district.
Yep.
9 full-time counselors in 14 buildings in our elementary schools?
8.
8, okay. And so how do we decide, and I assume it's by kiddos in our schools, we have some that are there 5 days, 4 days, 1 day. How do we come about with that?
Great question. Historically, that's what I've tried to figure out. There was a plan that goes as far back as I think 07, 08, when Amy Miller was in charge of the school counselors at the time, and maybe there was only 3 or 4, splitting buildings and doing a rotating basis. So it looked like there was a plan based on 5 or 6 factors, meaning enrollment, free and reduced lunch numbers, specific building needs, other resources that building deemed, if that was a lot of special education units within them. There was a variety of factors that then drove a plan at that time to roll out additional counselors, which did start to happen. They got to 8. I believe the plan had 12 was the ultimate goal. And there was a few more buildings at that time as well, but then the cuts and some things happened. So that plan kind of halted, and we've been at 8. So I don't know, and that's what Julia and I will take a closer look at with Barbara Wallace, is let's look at our current buildings and what we have. Are we, if we're going to sit at 8, are we in the right FTE for those buildings at status quo? And I think we need to make some adjustments there if we're going to stay with 8 counselors. But there was some method to it going in, and then that was halted. So now we're re-looking at that with some other indicators.
But they do float around based on need.
Ideally, maybe. They are assigned buildings on certain days. So no one has more than 2 buildings, which is a good thing. But if you're, let's take the magnets, they get 1 day a week. That's 30 some days a year. They get a lot of calls like, hey, can you come over? It's a hard dance for them to try and figure out, because their other building is a 4-day-a-week building that has a very high need, and trying to figure out where you release and where you don't, but to still meet that other need, especially during the snow days and testing. It was a pretty ugly picture to be in if you were sitting at Emerson or Hamby.
Yeah.
So, they do try and be, are responsive, but, and I also support them to say, if you can't go, you can't go. Not to say that school doesn't need you, but if we go to an on-call basis, they may never get out of their car based on each building. So it is tricky for them.
But you're working on that.
Yes, we are.
Okay. So I'm going to go on a little bit further. Mentoring programs. They're in all of our middle schools, correct?
Some.
Okay.
So as you look down that list.
I did, yeah.
The model program will go in place next year, and right now that is grant funded, and that will start at Heritage only for 60 students. We don't have the capacity to pop at other places, but this I'm very data driven. So we'll gather a lot of data, the targets closing that achievement gap, and then see if we can then spring that to the other 3 buildings. Each building has something, but not all buildings have everything. So,
Sorry, go ahead.
So as you go down that, there's certain ones that I would say just a couple that really would hit all of them. But no building is without.
Okay.
But plenty of room for improvement.
Yes,
Yes.
and I'm glad. I can tell that's what you want to do.
Yes.
And I really am just wondering, I'm not trying to point things out, I have no clue. So who facilitates these programs at the middle schools?
It varies. The model program that'll go into Heritage next year will be Cynthia DeVise and myself.
Great.
And then Boys Won't Be Boys will also be Cynthia and I. TGIF is grant funded by Winner's Choice, so they come in and do all that work. We have usually the school counselors being the liaisons, but they provide all the staff to complete that. Girls on the Run, that fluctuates. Or
Right.
Girls on Track, it varies on the elementary or middle school. Common Sense Culture, it's grant funded, so we have a person come in, and again, those are intermittent, but he is willing to come into all programs, and it's more of a risk avoidance program. He's also hitting a couple of, I think a couple of the Genoa and Blendon maybe have boys groups, mentoring groups run by some staff and administrators, and so he's infiltrating those as well. And then I know there's 2 other groups that counselors run, but it's just started this year, so I can't speak to how well those are going for mentoring.
And will they take place during school, after school? So
During,
so everyone or people that
and,
need them.
and
will
that's
be
probably the
able
only
to.
piece I didn't touch a lot on, the extracurricular piece or the linking piece, and I think that's going to be a tall task for me next school year. But I think things have to happen in some more accessible way. So we feel with these programs, they have to happen during our school day if we're going to hit the, give everybody in that building a true equal chance at attending. So we've been very creative. The buildings have been great to give us lunch and seminar time to really infiltrate some programming.
Okay. And then you mentioned NetCare. I have no clue what NetCare is.
That's a good thing that you don't know. I mean, I'm glad to hear that. I live in a different world where NetCare is every day, so it's a nice, refreshing statement. NetCare would be like going to an emergency room,
Okay.
But they only specialize in mental health. So there's 2 locations. One on South Central is specifically for children, so under 18s, and then there's another location. But I have never been to NetCare when it hasn't been a pretty difficult place to be. And so with that is it's a mental health emergency room, open 24 hours, and you see a lot of mentally ill kids and families in there 24 hours a day. So that's the piece that a lot of the positive with NetCare is it's free. So when you're assessing a kid and one of our students needs to go get assessed because they're suicidal, we can go to St. Anne's, we can go local, but can they afford the bill? And so I can't tell you how many conversations I've had where they're like, I know my kid needs help, but I can't afford a $5,000 hospital bill.
Yeah.
So fortunately or unfortunately, if we can't make that leap, then NetCare is free or no cost to them. I mean, it is all funded by other dollars. So, but then to walk them through that process and prepare them for, there's metal detectors, there's white walls, it's pretty institutionalized, and you may see all sorts of things in that waiting room. And then you may have to leave your kid there for 24 to 48 hours. And then they do a beautiful assessment. So they are trained people to do mental health assessments and link before you leave their facility. So there are benefits to it, but they do come with some difficult things at times. So that's where if people can afford or are insured to go to OSU or Children's, then that'll be our first recommendation. But if they can't and we don't want to give them one more burden, then NetCare would be the next best spot.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for all that you do. It's very obvious that you care and very passionate about your job. And I know Dr. Kellogg would like to say a couple words.
Just a quick couple observations and comments. One, there's a medical term, universal precautions. And I think part of the problem with social emotional learning and kids in crisis and family in crisis, we tend to be reactionary, guidance counselors jumping in cars, going to the emergency. And we tend to consider certain populations of families and students more susceptible. The fact of the matter is any of us who have family, it can be in our household anytime. And how it presents itself at school can be very difficult. Some kids, you don't see it and you don't have any clue initially. Other kids, it shows up the second they get on the bus. So the idea that we don't treat this as reactionary to or assume some people are more susceptible than others is really important. I think that's part of the work Tammy's doing. 2, the willingness of our guidance counselors, social workers, principals, and teachers to work with our staff, and Tammy mentioned several people kind of work in this domain, I think has been just admirable. And there's been a thirst in the district for that leadership and for that direction. She mentioned writing curriculum, finding the right program. I think has just been fabulous. And I commend staff for that, because I put Tammy out at an island, and quickly the island filled up with lots of people who see a need to do this work with kids. So that's really good. And they really responding to Tammy and other people's leadership. The other piece is, Dr. French, you mentioned parents and involvement, and there's parent and involvement as it relates to the situation with that kid. But the other important one, because you asked about Common Core, and that to me drives back to that parent involvement piece. So when you start talking about, this is a place that can be very difficult for a school district, when you start talking about implementing curriculum around social emotional learning, that can quickly get at people's tables, family tables, and be discussion about what the role of the school is, all right? So I'm sensitive to that for lots of different reasons. Tammy also mentioned she's working with the curriculum department, because within the curriculum department is where we do the curriculum adoption cycle, right? And you know, state law now requires parent and community involvement in that. So this would be one of those places that I would expect a high degree of parent involvement in looking at what we're offering with kids and informing them what we're doing. We had a very quick learning experience in this at one point related to curriculum we were doing with middle school kids in a district. And we all thought we were doing the best thing ever for all these middle school kids, until a parent with a different perspective because of their life circumstances saw it differently. And I felt, when I walked away, I felt we had done a poor job of letting that parent or any parent really know what their kid was being involved with. And that was the question. Just tell me what this is so I can make a decision about whether or not I really want my kid exposed to that. And I think that's a fair question, because the parent's the first teacher. We're the second teacher. And we don't always know what's best for that family, that child at that time. So those are some things, just some thoughts moving forward. So I too thank Tammy and her team for the work they're doing. I like the term social emotional learning better than some of the other ones I've used. So I think I got the acronym now. It's SEL. I like it. We're going to sell it. So thank you for your time and expertise on this, and I look forward to seeing where we get.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, 6.01 public comments. We do not have any tonight. We do not have any financial, which leads us to personnel consent agenda. And I see Lori coming to the podium, but I need a motion. 8.01 through 8.11 for the personnel consent agenda.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Davidson, members of the board. Tonight's consent agenda has 11 sections involving over 100 people. Section 8.01 is 1 classified retirement. 8.02 is 9 teacher retirements, which, by the way, brings our total to around 55 for licensed staff. 8.03, 4 classified staff resignations and 1 substitute. 8.03 was 4 classified staff resignations and 1 substitute. 8.04 is 1 resignation from a teacher supplemental. 8.05 is leave of absence for 7 teachers. 8.06 is contractual status change for 6 classified staff. 8.07 is contractual status change for 1 teacher. 8.08 is a change of assignment for 13 classified staff. 8.09 is employment of 4 classified staff and 7 substitutes. 8.10 is employment of an elementary principal, a home instruction tutor, and various supplemental positions. 8.11 is a one-time payment for a teacher. Can I answer any questions you may have at this time?
Yeah, just, I have to admit, the teacher retirements at this stage, so close to May the 23rd, was a bit breathtaking for me at 9. And I know that we've done a lot of work in this space in discussions. Do we have any, and I think we had planned for, most challenging case of even potentially out in the 70s.
Actually, there
More
are
than-
152 teachers
were
eligible. So we're
eligible.
thrilled that there
Yeah.
are only 54, 55.
I know that we're winding down. I mean, so in terms of timing to the end of the school year, how do we feel we're at? I mean, do we expect another set of large numbers over the next couple of meetings, or?
Mr. Byrd, President Davidson, members of the board, we do not expect a large number. I think the large number has something to do with the April 1st deadline for requesting benefits for throughout the summer. So we expected as it got closer to that April 1st date, we would get a bulk of them. I'm very happy there are not more.
Excellent, thank you.
If I may, President Davidson, before I leave the podium, I would like to take a minute to introduce our new principal of McVeigh Elementary School, Scott May. Scott's joined us this evening. I will let Scott tell you a little bit about himself, but just briefly, he is currently the principal at Chardon Elementary and has been there the past 5 years and will be relocating to Central Ohio, and we're thrilled to have him.
Dr. Kellogg, members of the board, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I'm excited, I'm thrilled to bring my family down here to the Central Ohio. I can't tell you how excited I am to be working for McVeigh Elementary. So I won't take too much more of your time, but thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for coming and welcome. Okay, moving on. Policy consent. We do not.
Need a roll call.
Oh, come on.
Sorry.
It's not welcome officially yet.
Would you like me to call a roll?
Good.
Okay. Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Byrd?
Yes.
Dr. French?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yep.
No.
Okay. Now let's move on. I apologize. Policy consent 9.01, we do not have any. Old business, we do not have any. New business, we do not have any. Standing business 12.01, resolution approving summer 2015 capital improvements, construction projects, which will bring Mr. LaRose to the podium. And we need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Anybody?
Thank you. Members of the board, we are presenting the bid results for 4 construction packages. Bid package 4 is for interior painting work at Amherst and exterior painting work at Robert Frost. Bid package 5 is for restroom improvements at Hawthorne and Whittier. Bid package 6 is for electrical panel replacement work at Whittier and South, and energy efficient lighting improvements at Central that are eligible for energy rebates, as we've done in the past. And bid package 7 is for exterior masonry repairs at Emerson. Bids were solicited in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code and publicly read on April 7th. We received 16 bids, 5 for painting, 5 for plumbing, 3 electrical, and 3 masonry. The lowest bids of all 4 packages totals $275,450, coming in 39% under budget. The lowest responsible bid for painting work was submitted by Rizad in the amount of $58,150. Rizad also submitted the lowest bid for plumbing work in the amount of, it was $45,500. The lowest responsible bid for electrical work was submitted by Capital City Electric in the amount of $142,300. And the lowest responsible bid for exterior masonry work was submitted by 2K General in the amount of $29,500. And it is being recommended that the board accept the painting and plumbing bids from Rizad, the electrical bid from Capital City Electric, and the masonry bid from 2K General as presented.
Any questions?
No, just a comment. I'm looking forward to a full summer and riding around with Mr. LaRose as we check on projects. So thank you for all the work, as usual. Jeff, thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, have we worked with any of these vendors before?
We have worked with Capital City. 2K did most of the work at South, the windows, the kitchens, the music room renovation last summer. Rizad I have not worked with.
Okay.
Are any of them being used over at Longfellow? Or, yeah,
No,
right now?
not right now.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Byrd?
Yes.
Dr. French?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. Moving on, 13.01 are public comments. We have one. Louise Reese. Just a friendly reminder, 5 minutes. Oh, great.
Happy spring. Been out in the yard. First of all, I want to thank you, Dr. Kellogg. I never thought I'd live long enough to see a program like the CEL program, and I am so thrilled. I got my husband excited. I just wanted to say something. Having been in social services, I have my bias like Rick does. The whole community concept of community mental health is what changed things, and it started in the 70s, as Nancy knows, moved into the 80s, and as everything takes a long time in government to get accomplished, what we've seen is a decline in the amount of services that are available within the community while they're switching everybody over to community-based services. Being the wife of somebody who spent over $140,000 to get his doctorate, okay, these are some of the reasons that you don't see as many professionals, and lately he's been doing 11 diagnostic evaluations a day. So he leaves at 7 or so in the morning and gets home about 7:30, 8 at night, and then he has paperwork, and on top of taxes, it's fun. So that's why I'm here tonight. As Tracy might understand, getting out's good. But I really am hoping that when you look at those numbers for the number of counselors that you have, and Nancy, when you talked about how you wished more school districts were doing the same thing, I think the whole idea of switching to community care was that it would drive the need to get more places to do and provide more services. And I worked at a residential treatment facility that no longer exists because the whole idea was that it was going to happen in the community. And I see this as a result. I see a lot of the issues that you're dealing with are a direct result of this switch to community care. And I would hope that even though it does cost money, if it's data-driven and that you're using need as the reason to drive it, that you would look at properly financing these services, because I think that this could do more in our schools, and having now my second one going through it, and having volunteered in those schools to get that type of programming in the classrooms as well. It's just an excellent idea, and I think it's one of the best things that has come our way, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Louise. Up next, we have board comments. Who would like to start?
No, I'm going to pass.
I just briefly, a couple things. First of all, great meeting. I think what really jumps out for me from this meeting is that if we think about the span and the breadth and diversity of the awards that we went through today, I think that the measure of the health of the district is measured by the whole district. So we celebrated sports, we celebrated teachers, we celebrated service workers, we celebrated administrators. So we covered all of the bases in one meeting, and it was great. I mean, I think there wasn't enough made of Westerville Central and Westerville North support of Westerville South. I was really, really encouraged by really one community and three hearts as we went into the state semifinals. I know that it was the talk of everybody that I was hanging out with. Lots of people made that trip. I think this evening as well, just a reflection again of the holistic nature of the health of the school district. And we have State Representative Ann Gonzalez here, Mayor Diane Fosselman, and longtime leader of our Westerville Chamber of Commerce, Janet Tressler Davis, was here. We had business leaders here. It's a great meeting. And I also have an opportunity to just quickly call out somebody that I know that's here this evening, that sat through the whole meeting, Ashley Wagner. I get an opportunity to, like we all do, meet a lot of people in the community, and I've known Ashley for a while now, and I believe, secured your principal license here? You got that done? Excellent. Summer principal status, is that what we're looking at? Outstanding. She's on our agenda this evening. So, and you know, if people are measured by the content of their character, Ashley is a great addition to the summer principal program. I'm looking forward to her work further in the district. So, thank you.
I actually, as I often do, I'm going to tag along with what you were saying. I was talking to someone at the funeral for a long time, community person, the other day, and she was moving back here from far away. And she said that she never forgot what Westerville is. And I think about that. You know, change occurs and we all change, and changes come to the district, and changes come to society, and changes come to academics, and all of the changes that occur within this community. There is still the Westerville heart. And so much of what we are is exactly what you were talking about, Richard. It's that remarkable strength of community here. And it's something that I think we take for granted, and it doesn't exist in so many other communities, that connection between parents and teachers and administrators and community members and business leaders in the faith community. It is to be cherished and celebrated. And yes, we did some of that tonight, and I hope as we continue to do more of that celebration and help people see what a remarkable heart Westerville has.
Go ahead.
I know it's getting late, so we'll just wind this down. I won't say anything either. Dates, times, and locations. The board will meet for a special session April 20th at 6 p.m. at North High School for our GEM Awards. It's one thing you do not want to miss. It's a lot of fun. And then we will meet for a regular session April 27th right here at Eastwind at 6 p.m. Next, we are going to go into executive session to talk about negotiations, but we need a motion to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Byrd?
Yes.
Dr. French?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
We are adjourned.
Well, not adjourned.
We're not